This is TWiT.
I woke up today to a post from Brianna on Bluesky saying, I'm a guest on TWiT today. I'm sure Bluesky will come up. I want to convince him and his massive audience that Bluesky is a place worth spending time. Can you help by following him and saying hello?
I'm there with you, Brianna. He already, I asked him if he needed an invite. No, I've been there. It's nothing.
Wrong.
You did the usual thing.
All right. What is Blue? So, Brianna, explain what Bluesky is before we go too much farther down the road.
Bluesky is Mastodon. Let's just admit it. It's Mastodon.
No, it's not. And I have to say, one of the things that hurts me a little bit is all of this week. It was all Bluesky because I think the blue check thing finally set off a number of well-known Twitter users to the point where they said, I'm out of here. Bluesky, which was created by Jack Dorsey a few years ago as a federated replacement in effect for Twitter, attracted them, and all of a sudden all the conversations about Bluesky, and here I am on our little Mastodon instance. I'm a big Mastodon user and fan.
I still love Mastodon, Leo.
And I'm saying, well, how come all of the love going to Bluesky all of a sudden? But Bluesky isn't Mastodon. I think it's important to say Bluesky is not the same.
Sure. I hear what you're saying. I feel like, but the experience is very similar to it. Like the one thing that Bluesky does better is it's not asking you to choose between 9 trillion different servers.
Not yet, but it will, won't it, Brianna?
You will have to choose eventually between like what you want your metadata to be as far as how trolls get labeled and what the moderation you want is. They're basically, the way they are going to offboard moderation is very similar to Mastodon, right? You're going to leave it up to individuals who go through and label, like, we approve this person, this is a troll, this is a harasser, this person is banned, and you can subscribe to whichever one you find best. So I think that when it comes to Bluesky, it's a really, really, really great conversation right now. I don't think it's going to be a great conversation a year from now with the approach that they're taking to moderation, in my view.
They just added blocking on Friday, so at least you can block somebody who's really annoying.
They launched with no trust and safety features, no trust and safety team. It was, they kind of,
there were 3 people.
Bass backwards, right? In which the CEO has now admitted that she understands that what you're really getting when you buy into a social network, the product is the moderation, right? It is the community you create. It is not, anybody can put up a nice little white sheet that random people can comment on, and then you consolidate all of these different tweets or skeets or whatever you want to call them. The hard part is making it a community people want to actually stick around to.
So one of the reasons it's a hot item right now is because it's invite only still.
Yes. It's just like Clubhouse in the early days.
Yeah, and like Google, Gmail in the early days.
We're old enough to remember that.
Yeah. That's a good way to get people wanting in.
Yeah.
You got to have an invite. It also, I think, wins because it looks a lot like Twitter, right? I mean,
yes. Well, and it's got 2 things that Mastodon has intentionally kept out, which is really good search, full text search, not just based upon hashtags, and basically quote tweets, right?
Yeah. If I press the repost button, I either get a choice between repost,
right? Which is the decision. Post. Like, it's this religious thing among some of the founders of Mastodon, of the key developers. They say that quote tweeting is drives abuse, which is true, but it's a feature that lots of people want. And they say the same thing about full text search, which I think is actually pretty foolish.
Oigan is changing his mind on both.
He's going to have to.
Why not?
He's going to have to because Bluesky is about to eat their lunch on that.
I got to give people a crib sheet. Oigan is the creator of Mastodon. Mastodon does not stand alone. Mastodon sits on a protocol called ActivityPub, which many other apps use as well. And ActivityPub is the backbone of something called the Fediverse, which is a federated universe of social apps, which include PixelFed, which is for pictures. There's a PeerTube, which is a YouTube clone. So there are a variety of things that use this ActivityPub. Bluesky's following the same road. In fact, it was a little weird. Jack Dorsey gave them, I think, $10 million a couple of years ago to start as a public benefit corporation. Not owned by Twitter. Jack is on the board.
Fully independent.
But it's fully independent. It's a public benefit corporation. And his walking papers, his mandate was create a federated Twitter, something decentralized that no one can own. And he was kind of prescient. Right. Actually, the most interesting story about Bluesky this week is Jack Dorsey went on Bluesky to retract his in statements about Elon Musk. When Elon first bought Twitter, he said the best possible person to own it.
Extending the light of consciousness.
Yeah.
Turns out it was a little. The light of consciousness did not totally penetrate the darkness in this case.
Jack was probably as disappointed as everybody else was by Elon's stewardship, and was fairly outspoken on Bluesky about that. I'll see if I can find that tweet, because Bluesky does have search.
Yeah, you're right.
While you're looking.
So, Leo, I do want to push back a little bit. And look, I really I think for those of us that have been out here enjoying Bluesky, we're definitely getting a lot of pushback from Mastodon people. And I get it. I love Mastodon. I've got 15,000 people there. My engagement is roughly equal to what I get on Twitter, with 10 times that amount. I enjoy Mastodon. I think what you're seeing with Bluesky is not just this ephemeral love for it because it is invite only. I think the reality is a ton of people that are just at their wits' end with harassment have moved over to Bluesky and have made it their home. And I think it doesn't take, I think there's a critical mass of journalists that can leave Twitter and make Bluesky their home and start posting there. That's going to have a really negative impact on Twitter as a vehicle to experience news actively.
But Alex, it sounds like you disagree that this is the place to go if you're being harassed on Twitter.
Well, I think Bluesky has
not sold on their long-term vision.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, Bluesky has been better because it is invite only. It has had a much smaller network of people on it.
There hasn't yet been a lot of harassment.
Right. The trolls have not been, for the most part. So Bluesky invite codes are going for like $300 on eBay. So, it's a big investment to go buy an invite code and then go burn it after, just to get a couple of nasty tweets at you.
Right.
But structurally, there's nothing about Bluesky that makes it better than Mastodon. No. In fact, I would say, ActivityPub, it has a longer history than AT Protocol, and people have been working on it. In both cases, Mastodon and Bluesky, people have not figured out how are you going to do moderation in a distributed fashion, right? Like the protocols themselves don't do a lot about the kind of metadata around moderation that is actually used inside of the big companies. And if you're a Mastodon owner right now, moderation's a big pain in the butt, and the tools do not really exist to do almost anything from an automated perspective. And so I think, yes, it feels a little better right now. It's because the trolls have bought their blue checks on Twitter and they're running rampant on Twitter. But there's absolutely nothing that says that you won't end up with fully abusive instances federating with Bluesky, just as you've had with Mastodon.
The good news on Mastodon is whoever runs the instance, and I run a Mastodon instance called TWiT.social,
right,
has kind of infinite control to moderate it. Right. You don't have the tools, but with a small instance like mine, it's about 5,000 or 6,000 people. I rely on the users to report. Mm-hmm. When they report, I review and I boot them. Usually that's no more than a few a day. And it's invite only, so you have to apply to get in. And it's not invite exactly, but you have to apply to get in.
You're approved.
Approval, yeah. And so it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah.
And then I also have to remind users, you can block anybody on Mastodon, which is nice. Block them on any instance anywhere. You, as a user, can block any instance.
Yep.
And as an administrator, I can block an instance. So if there is an instance, and there are quite a few on Mastodon, there are nasty Nazi instances, or that's hard to say, Nazi instances, you can block them whole hog, which I do.
Yeah.
And so right now, if you're on TWiT.social, your experience is probably very benign.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not on Mastodon.social, one of the big instances.
Right.
But that's the argument for federation, is have small instances, right? That can be handled by individuals, moderators, right?
Leo, I don't use, as long as I don't use the instances feed, I'm on Mastodon social just because I was, a dork and went to the first place available. It's not bad at all. What's really interesting that I've noticed in my long experience of 2 days on Bluesky is that Black Twitter has adopted Bluesky far more than Mastodon.
Yep.
That's good.
I think it was a very smart,
that's not good for Mastodon, but I'm glad that they've found out that there's a home.
Well, we'll see. But it was a smart thing where the devs valued that, and they found some people to give the invites to the people who matter, and there's a lot of people there. Sedet's there, Dr. A is there. A lot of folks are there who were not on Mastodon. And Mastodon didn't give the best reception. When I held the Black Twitter Summit in February, one of the things we talked about was that the geeks of Mastodon said to Black Twitter, well, these are our rules and make your own instance. And it was their way to say F you to a community they weren't valuing sufficiently. So we'll see what happens on Blue Sky, but it's, I think, a very positive sign because you can make, I think, a very good argument that the social things that work are the ones that are pushed into new uses by communities like Black Twitter.
If I channel the founders of Blue Sky, and I'll let you respond to this, Alex, they said, well, we've got to solve the issues of distributed ID. We've got to solve these issues of federation before we start putting in moderation tools, before we start putting in blocking. Because, of course, if you don't have a solid framework for federation, then you don't even know what blocking means. Is blocking local? Is blocking federated? How do you federate it?
Yeah.
And so one of the things they have done that is, I think, probably better, their protocol is called AT-Proto. One of the things they have done better is it's very easily portable. Your identity on Blue Sky, mine's leolaporte.me. It doesn't say Blue Sky, and I can easily move that because it's a public key crypto backed DID to another instance if I don't like an instance. So I think that Mastodon you can move, but it's a manual process. It's not
it's a real pain, and you need the server to do the work for you.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a big issue because if the server goes dark.
Right, which there's been a bunch. Yeah. Which I think both Blue Sky, all of these federated platforms are going to end up in really serious moderation politics, right? That you see, if you look at admin block or fedablock hashtags in Mastodon, it is full of people turning their little personal fights into blocking entire instances, and then hundreds or thousands of people complaining, why can't I follow my friends anymore? Because these two people, and then also well-meaning people who are trying to run communities that are open and helpful and that don't have the kind of abuse you see on Twitter, are being driven away from hosting Mastodon because of the abuse they get if they slightly deviate from the conventional wisdom of what people want, or the most maximal kind of.
So how would you architect it, Alex?
And we should say Alex has trust and safety standings. You've done this
that's
before.
Why I'm asking.
You are the guy, if anybody, to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you would know, but I'm actually 22 years old. This is just what you look at. I wouldn't call myself. I've done a lot of trust and safety work. I'm teaching a trust and safety class at Stanford right now. I kind of wish the Blue Sky folks had taken my class, because this is exactly why I teach a class at Stanford. Is you should not be launching any kind of social product without having done a lot of the basic stuff. It just feels Blue Sky, I think they've launched 6 months early based upon what's going on.
That's the feeling I get as well. This is so early, but have they launched it still invite only?
Yeah, well,
it would be better to be a little under the radar for a little longer.
Well, what happened is the invite only wasn't working. The reason all this abuse came up is the initial invites didn't have enough entropy, and so it looks like there's no rate limiting on the API. So you had trolls just brute forcing the invites and then walking themselves in, so they didn't have to really burn anything of consequence to go abuse people. So yes, I think there's a number of interesting security and safety issues in Blue Sky. But in the long run, even if they build out a team, how do you do community management of rules in a federated world is going to be a fascinating problem. I also think we're going to need better tools for folks, because our team's doing a bunch of work on this. I don't want to preview it too much, but we'll be publishing a paper probably in 2-3 weeks from now where we talk about child safety issues on Mastodon, and it's a really serious issue. It's a serious issue that that you have to think about if you're a Mastodon owner, because when your people subscribe to other folks' content, that content gets pulled down and stored on your server.
Yeah, we should explain how this works. So here's my Mastodon instance. There's a number of timelines. There's the local timeline, which is just people posting on TWiT Social. There's the people I follow, kind of like your normal Twitter timeline. But there's this federated timeline. This is a timeline of everybody followed by anybody on my server, which means if somebody on my server follows somebody that has child porn, that is now on my server.
Right. It gets fetched by your server and stored in your blob storage.
Which means I'm responsible
Which you're responsible for. And you don't have the tools that Twitter has, that Facebook has and such, to go automatically check that image against known hash lists and such. So it's a solvable problem, but there's so much thinking about the fun parts, and not a lot of people are spending a lot of time on
this is Silicon Valley writ large, right? I mean, it's move fast and break things. And, this comes up a lot in the crypto field as well, which is if they just consulted crypto experts, they wouldn't have done it this way. If they just consulted trust and safety experts, they wouldn't have done it.
They would never have launched. I mean, this is the flip side.
That's the problem. It would never launch.
And safety people is we don't want you to do anything.
You're like lawyers. If lawyers ran the world, nothing would ever happen.
Wow. That's brutal.
Okay, you're not that bad.
Shots fired.
Yeah. But if I could just chime in on here for a second, I really want to back up what you're saying, Alex. And I think that is the fundamental flaw that I see with Bluesky, because their vision of the future is someone who does not have any resources behind them from Bluesky. Someone apparently is going to go out there. They're going to be writing all this metadata that you or I or some user can subscribe to basically put a label on users and put a label on activity, like put a label on skeets, right? This is not funded. And I was talking, to the former head of Twitter Trust and Safety about this yesterday on Bluesky, where, this is incredibly expensive work to do correctly. This is the entire reason Elon Musk has automated a lot of this, because it is so expensive to do trust and safety well. You do have to have oversight. You have to have transparency. You have to have the ability to appeal. Right. So this is the part of it that I am deeply, deeply, deeply skeptical with Bluesky. I mean, I suppose theoretically that you get enough users over there, enough of the, major users of Twitter, and someone comes along and they offer to do trust and safety as a product that I can subscribe to for $8 a month. Maybe that works. I could kind of see that working, but it's just their entire paradigm here, in my view, is solving the wrong problem. What I do think they've done right is they've gotten all the right people from Twitter off Twitter, talking to each other on this service, enjoying what it's like to have a conversation without endless harassment and death threats with adults there. And we're really getting emotionally invested in it. So, maybe they can turn the ship around, but I share Alex's appraisal that this is work that should have been done, 6 months ago, and really ideally prior to the MVP.
I didn't plan it this way, but I have somehow put together the perfect panel for this topic. Brianna Wu, one of the victims of Gamergate, and still despite that, very active Twitter user. Alex, who's obviously the guy to talk to for trust and safety. Jeff is also very active in Twitter, has reached out to various Twitter communities. You just did a seminar for school on Black Twitter. So I couldn't have put together. Now, I didn't know Bluesky was going to be the topic of the day, but it sure ended up being the perfect panel to discuss.
A lot of invites went out. To both Brianna and Alex's point, before we got on and I lost it. There was whatever we're going to call a thread, a skeet thread, Do they have
threads? A scred. Okay, I like scred. We're going to go with scred.
I saw a scred saying that, and I'm sure, Alex, you'll know a lot more about this than I will, the intelligence on some of the bad places where the bad people go, they're, arming on the border of Crimea here at Bluesky, planning to come in and attack trans people.
Yeah.
And when they come in, they're going to have search to be able to do that. They're going to have quote tweets to be able to do that. And the blocking is going to be fairly limited. And so with no staff, how does Bluesky react? And very importantly, how does the community of Bluesky react? Who do we report to? What do we do? What happens when we see it happening? It's going to be a very crucial moment that I'm rooting for Bluesky, but I'm worried for them at this moment.
Yeah.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. Audit, IT, and cybersecurity skills become outdated in about 18 months. If you run an IT, cybersecurity, or audit department, or lead a learning and development group, ACI Learning can craft an effective, affordable training solution to keep your team future-proof. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit to elevate your talent.